over 300 years, a single dynasty dominated the Indian subcontinent. Now, these weren't just any rulers. They were descendants of some of the world's greatest conquerors, Genghis Khan and Timur. And they built an empire of just unimaginable wealth and stunning beauty. This is the story of that dynasty, the Mughals. It's a true saga of ambition, incredible glory, and in the end, decay.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How does something so powerful get built, and how does it fall apart? We're talking about centuries of history here, battlefield genius, revolutionary ideas about how to govern, and yeah, some pretty epic betrayals. In this explainer, we're going to follow that entire story, from a desperate prince looking for a kingdom, all the way to a poet-emperor dying alone in exile.
All right, so our story kicks off with that prince. His name was Babur. He'd just lost his home in Central Asia, and he turned his gaze south towards the legendary riches of Hindustan, what we'd call northern India. At the time, it was ruled by a patchwork of states called the Delhi Sultanate, and it was ripe for the taking.
This right here, this was Babur's secret weapon. At his first major battle, the Battle of Panipat, he was completely outnumbered. I mean, it wasn't even close. But he had something his enemies had never seen before: cannons and firearms. This new artillery absolutely terrified the enemy's war elephants, and it just tore through their ranks. It was a shocking victory that would literally change the course of Indian history.
And Panipat, well, that was just the start. Over the next few years, Babur just methodically took down all his major rivals. He smashed the powerful alliance of Hindu warrior kings, the Rajputs, and then he crushed the rest of the Afghan chiefs. See, he wasn't just conquering land, he was being strategic, securing it, and laying the real groundwork for a brand new dynasty.
But the empire was still on shaky ground. Babur's son, Humayun, he was more of a scholar than a general. And sure enough, he gets overthrown by an Afghan noble named Sher Shah Suri. Now, here's the ironic part. In just 5 years, this usurper, Sher Shah, introduces all these incredible lasting reforms, like a major highway and a standard currency, that the Mughals would end up using later. Humayun did eventually get his throne back, but this whole episode just showed how fragile the new empire really was. So after Humayun's sudden death, the throne passes to his son, Akbar, who's only 13 years old. And it's this kid who would take what his grandfather conquered and turn it into one of the greatest, most stable empires anywhere in the world. Akbar's genius, really, was his philosophy of governing. He just got it. He knew that trying to rule a huge, multi-religious land like India by force was never going to work long-term. So instead, he adopted this policy called Sol y Kol, which basically means peace with all. And this wasn't just some nice-sounding idea. It was a hardcore, practical strategy for keeping the empire together. And he put this idea into practice right away. He didn't just defeat the powerful Rajput kingdoms, he made alliances with them, marrying into their families and making them partners in the empire. He welcomed everyone to his court, Hindu scholars, Christian missionaries, you name it. He created this incredible multicultural government. This idea of inclusion, it became the bedrock of Mughal strength for the next 100 years.
So because of that foundation of stability and wealth, Akbar's successors, Jahangir and Shah Jahan, got to oversee a golden age. We're talking art, culture, architecture, everything flourished. This is the era of splendor, the one most people picture when they think of the Mughals.
And of course, the most famous symbol of this whole age is the Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan built it as a tomb for his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. To this day, it's just the ultimate symbol of Mughal artistry and power. It was really the crown jewel of an empire that was at the absolute peak of its game.
But all that splendor had a massive price tag. The crazy amount of money spent on monuments like the Taj and on constant military campaigns was starting to drain the treasury. So while on the surface the empire looked stronger than ever, behind the scenes the foundations were beginning to crack.
And that brings us to Aurangzeb. He was Shah Jahan's son, and he seized the throne in a really brutal civil war against his own brothers. He was a devout, disciplined, and absolutely relentless military commander who would rule for almost half a century. He pushed the empire to its largest size ever, while at the same time sowing the seeds of its utter destruction.
50 years. Let that sink in for a second. For nearly his entire 50-year reign, Aurangzeb was at war. He was obsessed with expanding Mughal control over the entire subcontinent, especially this really tough region in the south called the Deccan. And right here, this is the central paradox of his entire rule. Did he achieve his military goals? Absolutely. The empire had never been bigger. But the cost was catastrophic. The endless wars bankrupted the state. He reversed Akbar's policy of inclusion, which angered former allies like the Rajputs. And because of all this, powerful new rebellions, like the Maratha warriors, rose up and just started bleeding the empire dry from the inside out.
So when Aurangzeb finally died in 1707, he left behind an empire that looked huge on a map, but was actually hollowed out. What came next was just this long, slow, painful decline. You had a string of weak emperors who just sat by and watched as all their power slipped away.
Then, in 1739, came the ultimate humiliation. The ruler of Persia, Nadir Shah, just marched into the capital, Delhi, with barely any resistance. He massacred the people, stole all its wealth, and, get this, he carried away the famous Peacock Throne, the actual seat of Mughal power. After that, the empire's prestige was just shattered. From that point on, the collapse just picked up speed. You had weak emperors, so ambitious nobles started grabbing all the real power. This chaos basically invited foreign invaders to come and raid whenever they wanted. And into this giant power vacuum stepped a new player, the British East India Company. They were experts at exploiting the chaos, and they slowly took over land, taxes, and armies. By 1857, the Mughal emperor was just a figurehead. When Indian soldiers rebelled against the British, they used him as a symbol of past glory, but it was way too late. The revolt was crushed, and the last Mughal emperor was sent into exile, ending the dynasty for good.
And that was it. A dynasty that lasted 331 years was over. It rose with cannons and a brilliant vision of unity. It shone with a cultural splendor the world had rarely seen. And it fell apart from the strain of growing too big, too fast, leaving behind a legacy that, you can be sure, still shapes the Indian subcontinent to this very day.